Happy Monday, family. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us for another Parent Power Hour on a Monday, 5 o'clock. We are joined today by, yet again, esteemed guests. And as I promised, Tyrone is back in the house, a little under the weather, so you won't see the face of the franchise, but he is here with us and he's going to guide us through your questions and comments. Today, we are joined by two esteemed parents, Ms. Twila Mohammed and Ms. Helen Thomas, along with Sarah Warren from City Schools. And we're going to just continue to ask questions about the reopening process and phases as they're going along. There is local confusion, there is district confusion, there is national confusion around reopening schools. So we're going to do our best to facilitate this conversation. Please join in as you normally do by sending Tyrone your questions and your comments, and also the answer to our connection question. Tyrone, we need to do an informal poll about that. Now, Tyrone, you are, today, I won't even ask you, you are excluded. You get a pass today, because I know you don't feel your best. But can you say hi to the people so they know I'm not making it up?
Yeah. Hi, folks. I am here, and I'm getting everything, excuse me, set up online right now. We are connected with our folks.
All right. So speaking of connection, remember everybody, Tyrone gets a pass today. But we are going to ask our guests. We're going to start with Ms. Thomas, and the question, family, is: what is your favorite flower, plant, or tree? I just changed that on the last second for Miss Thomas. So Miss Thomas, your favorite flower, plant, or tree?
My favorite is the cherry blossom. The cherry blossom tree is like 600 varieties of them, and they only come out at a certain time of the year, but when they come out, they bloom, they leave such a great aroma, and they bring all this beauty, and then it fall off for the next one. So yes.
All right. But see, you got me, Ms. Thomas. I wasn't expecting that. You know, you didn't just tell me about your favorite. You told us it's 600 varieties, so now I have to go look that up. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Ms. Mohammed, how about you?
Good afternoon. My favorite flower, I recently purchased a house, so I fell in love with these flowers that I can keep alive in my garden, called Touch Me Nots. Which is, it's like a cherry blossom where it has like multiple varieties. It's actually an impatient flower is actually the name of it, but the style that I like is Touch Me Not, because it requires nothing but a little bit of water.
Wow, beautiful. Well, I tell you, friend, I didn't know, Tyrone, I did not know that I would strike a chord in the horticulture community today. You see, I just asked the question. Ms. Warren, how about you?
Good one.
You're muted, Ms. Warren.
That's exactly why you do that, isn't it? Just to test out our mute capability. I failed the test. So I think this is a tough one. I love so many different flowers. And what I'm noticing here in Baltimore this spring, especially as I was home all the time, is that there's a new thing blooming all the time. It's amazing. But I think I'm going to go for now with the gardenia because it's so fragrant and beautiful smelling, and it really symbolizes summer. It's not easy to take care of. It's a challenge, but I think that's good for me.
All right. I had no idea, Tyrone. Had no idea. For me, it is the common daisy. I love it. Actually, yeah, the classic white petal, but I love all the different varieties that they come in as well. Tyrone, you are exempt. So hopefully the family will be chiming in with their favorite flower, plant, or tree. All right, down to business, everybody. As we talk about the reopening, it's on everyone's mind. It seems to be the next big event, if you would, pardon that phrase, that's happening within this COVID era, which is to say, how do we reopen schools and what does it look like? Not only academically, but we have to consider the emotional impact on our kids, on our students. They've already went through enough by not being in school since March. And so now, what is the dynamic? What is this going to look like for them moving forward in September? And of course, we don't have all the answers, but we're here to ask the questions and try to get some solutions from city schools, and also hear from our illustrious parents that have volunteered to join us today. Ms. Warren, I'm going to start with you. Loaded question, I know, but what trauma or social emotional issues are you seeing from the families in the district during this time?
So you're right, it's a complex question. And thank you for that. I think what weighs on me is that there are so many different things coming at our students and our families all at the same time. So if we think back to the spring, it's hard to believe that March is only a few months ago, but we have gotten used to, sort of in a strange way, living with a pandemic and all of the stresses and anxieties that come with that. And I have seen that alone just weighing on people, just the anxiety that the virus itself brings. And then, of course, we've had a lot of people in our own community and families who have been struggling with the virus, and in some cases, sadly, have passed. And so there's an immediate sense of both fear and anxiety and loss around created by the actual illness. And then there are all the many things and added stresses that this situation has caused for people. So obviously, there's just the mere fact of being cooped up in our houses all the time, which has been challenging. And I think for our young people, not to be able to be out in school, interacting with their peers all spring, engaging with their teachers, being a part of that school community, which is so much a part of their daily routine and their sense of social connection, has been really challenging for a lot of people, adults too, but really for our students. And then some of the follow-on things that have happened. The economy has hit some people very hard, and that can create added stress for families and for children. In addition to that, obviously, we then went through a particularly painful period with regard to racism and the incidents of violence against our Black and Brown community members. And so, it's not that that wasn't all there before, but it just got ramped up even more during a particularly stressful and challenging time. And so I think, that's yet another layer of trauma and stress that we worry about and that we've seen expressed and coming through. And then I think as we head back into school, all of those things are still very real. And on top of that, we have I think new anxieties coming up around people's concerns about the new school year and what will it look like and feel like, and what's this virtual learning thing going to be like this time around? When might we actually go back into school buildings, and what would that be like, and will we be safe? And so, and then how are we going to catch up from the learning that we may have lost, in the spring? So it's just, it's a lot, and it's any one of those stresses, I think on its own would have been challenging, but knowing that they're coming at our children and our teachers and our families all at the same time means we have to have a particularly heightened awareness of what people are going through and what kind of support folks need, and really have open hearts and open arms as we come into the school year, really ready to support people.
Thank you. Ms. Thomas, how about you and your family, or even families that are adjacent to you? What kind of social emotional issues and impacts? Looks like we lost Ms. Thomas. Ms. Mohammed, I'm going to go to you with the same question. What kind of social emotional issues and impact have you been experiencing as a parent, and maybe some other parents that you know about?
I think for me, I had two tweens. And so, of course, for them, the biggest thing is having a connection to peers. And so really not being able to see their friends on a daily basis is definitely weighing heavy on them. And it causes me stress because they're like, well, Mom, my friends are doing this and my friends' parents are letting them do that. And I'm like, well, we're not doing that. You know what I mean? As a precaution. One, I'm high risk. So I can't, I'm not willing to, risk my health for you all to be social. So I can, I've attempted to make provisions where you can, do Zoom things or, talk on the telephone or, I did make some concessions recently and I let my daughter go outside with a friend, but what little gray hair I had is now, a full, a full head of gray hair. So, it for me, it's definitely been a little stressful because I do want them to be able to engage with their friends and family members as well. But it's just really tough because I want them to be safe and I want to be safe as well. And just, I think from folks that I know with school age children, they're kind of, dealing with the same thing. And then those who have younger children, like the pre-K, first grade, kindergarten, they're really struggling with the idea of how, to create these connections for their children who that they didn't necessarily have to create connections before because they were home or they were in, these daycare settings where it was, they were the settings that it was created for them. And so now the kids, how do they continue that through this virtual platform? And so I think that's going to be a challenge for a lot of families moving forward.
Indeed, and that actually segues us to my next question, Ms. Warren. And if we can zero in on the emotional aspect for the fall, what has City Schools done or what is City Schools proposing to do to deal directly with how these kids are impacted emotionally when they come back? Even, we did mention the possibility of them coming back to the physical building, but prior to that, even just being online, what kind of things have the City Schools try to prepare for?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So I think that, when we look at what needs to be done to support our students through the emotional elements of coming back, we think about it in terms of a spectrum of supports. So all students, everyone needs to have a high degree of support, opportunities to talk, to connect with their peers, connect with their teachers. So I would say always it's really important that the start of the school year focus on relationship building and community building. This year it's even more important, right? It just is so critical that students, especially because we're going to be in this strange virtual space again, we have to put that much more emphasis on the initial days of school and really building relationship and building community. So that is one of the things that we are messaging to our schools and that we are providing professional development and resources around. It means things like having sort of added getting to know you activities, community building, restorative circles, social emotional learning activities. So a heavy emphasis on that coming into the year. And then we actually had some good experience in the spring of building just relatively short and simple, but seemingly effective social emotional learning activities that our teachers could do and build into the day with students. And we got lots of positive feedback on that. And so we are building another set of those activities for teachers to use throughout the coming school year. So that's something that will be accessible to all students. Big emphasis on social emotional learning, restorative practices, wellness, et cetera. And then we're also trying to zero in and make sure that our teachers and our school leaders and other staff are well equipped to know what kinds of signs they need to be looking for to identify students who may need some added support. There are going to be probably even more young people than we would normally expect to see who are experiencing some degree of stress or trauma or need some kind of mental health intervention. And so we'll be training our staff on identifying those things and making the appropriate referrals to the right mental health support staff. We're also trying to beef up our capacity to provide mental health services. So we do have social workers and psychologists, counselors, folks in each school. We've also got a program that brings in mental health clinicians from partner organizations in the community. So clinicians from places like Hopkins or University of Maryland and other health organizations. So we're trying to increase our support behind that to have even more mental health services available. And those, fortunately, they're allowed to do teletherapy. And so we did this in the spring, and we will continue in the fall to make teletherapy available to our students. The other thing, again, that we did in the spring, and we will do again this year, is if students were not connecting to school and we didn't know for sure what was going on, if they weren't there every day, we were pushing on the schools to get out and connect and find them. And schools really took that seriously. And I think in many cases did a fantastic job. So we do not want anyone to fall through the cracks. We want everyone to know that they are valued and they're welcome and they are, important as a member of the learning community. And if they're not there, we will notice and we will come looking and trying to find what they need in support in order to be able to come and take part in learning.
Okay, it was good that you mentioned the emphasis on additional clinicians. I was wondering if, any of those resources would be given so that there would be extra folks. And we're not talking about school locations yet, but if, like you said, teletherapy would be available to all students throughout the district. You mentioned Hopkins. It sounds like Hopkins is on board as well.
Yeah, we have a program called the Expanded School Mental Health Program. So in addition to the district's own social workers and psychologists and the folks that are part of our own staff through the Related Services Office, we also have this program called Expanded School Mental Health. And we work with several partner organizations who provide mental health clinicians. And so they are currently working in 130 of our schools. And we are trying to find funding to increase the number of clinicians that we can provide to schools. So both to reach all of our schools and to have even more clinicians in the ones where they already exist. So we're sort of pooling our internal resources with these great partnerships. It is teletherapy for now, but when we are physically in buildings, they provide in-person services too.
All right, and thank you for that. Ms. Thomas, welcome back. I'm going to come to you in a moment, no problem. Unmute yourself, please. I'm going to come to you in a moment. I'm going to check in with Tyrone to see what our family in the audience, what questions or comments they may have thus far. Tyrone?
So far, of course, thanking folks for being here. Shout outs to our regulars, of course, who are here: Joanne, Taki, Tia, shout outs DeAndre, Stacy, Michael, Kim, folks that are watching and joining in. I want to remind you all to please share this live. Share it out. We got folks in different groups watching, so please share this live. DMV educators are focusing and paying attention and watching and learning from you. Actually, Miss Warren, someone made a comment there. We do have one question for you though, Miss Warren, and it says there's been talks about a lot of secret meetings at the district. Why aren't parents and certain stakeholders being invited now?
Well, I can't speak to any secret meetings. I'm not aware of them. I mean, certainly there's a lot of ongoing planning going on around, just getting ready for the school year, professional development and whatnot. But there has been a really strong concerted effort to try to make sure that families and students, staff have plenty of opportunities to engage and share their thoughts and their input on what the plan should look like. So there are weekly town hall meetings. There's a place on the website where folks can go and both to get information and to submit ideas. And certainly, based on what I've seen, the comments and the feedback from the community through those means, and then through things like surveys and focus groups and interviews and whatnot, is all really being taken on board and taken seriously. And I think the feedback from both families and staff is reflected in the initial decision to start school virtually. But in terms of other things that people may want to weigh in on, I hope people will continue to do that, because we really do want to hear from people about how you want to see this go and what you need in order to make this a successful school year for your students and for families.
Could you, Ms. Warren, also, a couple of other things coming in now. Also, it seems that always happen. Like when one question come, then they just start popping in. But could you tell me? A question is asked is, why haven't the work streams included parents?
I have to be honest that I don't really know the exact reason why they were set up like they were. I think the idea was that we would gather as much information as we could from as many parents as possible, and then try to maintain a back and forth so that as plans were developed, we would take information into account, draft something, take it back out to the community and gather feedback. So that's the way it was structured. Beyond that, all I can say is we've got lots of representation across many different staff groups, and from both inside the district office as well as across schools. And there's been lots of examination of input from families by each of the work groups.
Awesome. The SEL resources and teachers orienting sound really helpful. What is available to parents as they support the SEL needs for their kids now that parents are more involved in schooling?
Yeah, that's such a great question. We started to try to experiment in the spring a little bit more with various resources and formats for families to try to engage around this. So one of the things that we started in the spring was essentially like office hours or a call-in session where families could call and we could talk through what they were experiencing, what students were going through, and then share some of our ideas and strategies, and also just getting parents to share with each other, because often parents have some of the best solutions based on experience. And so I think that some of those went well, and we are going to try to do those again starting in the new school year to open up some of those spaces. I think what we learned from that process was that it seemed to work better when we did it more on a school by school basis, so that people could really interact with the other folks from their own school community, rather than just a kind of a large open district-wide event. So I think that we're going to try to lean in that direction again in the fall. We also did weekly Wellness Wednesday posts. So depending on what was going on in a given week, we would write an article and try to share a few ideas and strategies about things to try with children and young people to address different types of issues that might be going on, and things to encourage physical and emotional well-being. So we will probably be bringing that again in the fall. And then we're really encouraging our schools to just engage continuously with families, both to share ideas and strategies and to really listen and try to shape the way that we're working around family input. There will be some orientation sessions at the beginning of the school year for families. And so we're looking at how we can use some of those opportunities to build in some ideas and strategies that families might take away as well. So those are a few of the ideas, although I have to say that this is an area where we would love to have input from families on what would be most helpful to you. So we're very open to ideas and suggestions about what would be the best formats and what would be the most useful for families moving forward.
Okay, well, you kind of started going there when you talked about making sure that schools did what they could do to connect with families. And one thing that parents have been talking about and other community members is either having a district to really help push schools to create a space where parents can collaborate and talk about how they can help. There may be some parents who have time available to help tutor or something, but a space need to be, created so that it's able to be shared. So yeah, I will go back to you now, William. Encourage you all to just continue to send in your questions and your comments, and please continue to share the live.
Thank you, Tyrone. Family, audience members, thank you so much for those questions, and please continue to comment and questions. Ms. Thomas, we are going to come to you. We have not heard from you since you talked about the 600 different types of strands of the cherry blossom. I wanted to ask you how this time period has affected your family socially, from a social emotional standpoint, your family, and also maybe any families in your community.
A lot of the families in my community, as well as myself, had problems with distant learning. The problem with distant learning is it started in March. It was fast. It was, this is what it is. Let's do it. We found that a lot of the kids here did not do distance learning. They didn't pick up their technology. The parents thought it was too much. Parents were ill-equipped to deal with it. We had schools that were not able to connect with the parents. So what we dealt with was a lot of kids that still to this day do not have technology. So how are these kids going to pass in school or even attend school if they don't have technology? I went to North Avenue on the last day, the week before last, and the line was outrageous. It was so much confusion. People walked away still with no technology. So I understand everything that's being said, but my problem is if the kids don't have technology, then how are they supposed to properly learn? If the parents don't have the technology and they're not teaching the children, the parents need to know about this distant learning as well. They're suffering, the kids are suffering, along with other emotional problems like, their rent, how are we gonna pay our rent? We've been out of work for so long. A lot of our parents are housekeepers. They work in a hotel franchise, or they work in with restaurants. So now you're talking about people with no jobs that now have to take care of their kids and do distant learning. So my question, would be basically to our school, what's her name? I'm sorry.
Ms. Warren, our representative.
Yes, would be to Ms. Warren. If the children don't have proper technology, and still at this date, and we're about to go into the fall, and children still don't have proper technology, how are these children supposed to learn? I heard that they had hotspots, but then children aren't receiving the hotspots. They have computers, but you tried it with the schools. The schools hadn't had a lot of success with it. So then North Avenue took it over, and now North Avenue hasn't had a lot of success with it. So how are these kids supposed to get this technology, and whom, and from where? Because I was at North Avenue.
Ms.
I'm
Warren.
sorry, I thought I unmuted. I heard, it sounds like you were there on the really crazy day. I wasn't there myself, but I heard about it. And apparently people came in large numbers, and which in a way was exactly what was wanted, because we want to make sure everybody gets the technology. And then it was, there were so many people coming out that the district decided that it couldn't go on at the district level anymore because it wasn't safe. There were too many people standing in line. So from like a just COVID and social distancing point of view, it was not safe to have so many people together. And then apparently it was also very hot that day. And we didn't want people standing out in the heat for so long either. So the district decided to go back to school-based distribution of laptops and technology. And I believe it's starting, I think sometime next week, they were supposed to come out with further information on that. It's being essentially handed back down to the schools to make sure that they find out every student that needs the technology, and then making sure to connect each family with whatever technology is missing. And I should be clear that at this point, we're not talking about one laptop per household. We're trying to make sure every single student has a device that they can work from. I mean, let's be honest, the spring was a little crazy. And as you said, all of a sudden we were just in this place of having to act like, you know, we knew how to do distance learning as a community. And actually, we figured a lot out very quickly. I think both families and students and staff, but it was far from an ideal situation, and it all happened so fast and literally overnight, really. So we've learned a lot from that process. There's been a huge effort underway to secure enough technology to be able to give out to people. And now we just need to make sure that people come to your schools. If you don't have the technology, or if you have a neighbor or a friend or anyone you know, spread the word, you know, through church communities or anywhere else you can, that the technology does exist. We just need to get it to people now. And so again, it's not going to happen at the district office anymore because we didn't want anyone to be unsafe, but it will happen through schools during the last couple of weeks of August. And please, if you or someone you know doesn't have one for a child, make sure that the school knows about it so that they can get the technology to the student.
Ms. Warren, do you have days and times for those distribution?
No, I believe it's still being set up, and it will be done on a school by school basis. So it won't be exactly the same for each school.
Okay. Thank you for
So,
that.
I think Miss Helen really had a great point about the kids being, you know, having access to technology. I think the biggest thing for me, especially coming off from the spring when, you know, virtual learning was optional. It was, you know, the marketing was optional. You know, kids didn't have to do it, or they could do the paper versus getting online. And, you know, it was all of these things. So my question is, what is the district doing? Well, I really haven't seen much, but what are they doing, or what are they preparing to do in the next couple of weeks to, you know, notify parents that this is not optional? You know, we need some sort of marketing to get our students engaged, excited, and ready for this new challenging learning, you know, adventure. And so, you know, what is the district doing to, you know, prepare to get this information out so that our families can see the importance of being connected?
That's a great point. Thank you. And we would love any help you all want to provide in spreading the word. No, you're right. The spring was one thing, and we, you know, we were given quite a bit of latitude and grace by the community, by the state, et cetera, to try to get through this new experience in the spring. But it's going to be very different in the fall and in the new year. So we're not, this is going to be real school. It will be rigorous. We expect people to attend. We've just been working on, you know, our attendance documentation plans and guidelines. So we, you know, we will expect students to attend school every day. We will be marking attendance like we would in a normal situation in school. And we will be, you know, contacting students and families if they're not attending. So the expectations are real, and the support will be there too, to, you know, to help people who may be struggling to connect for some reason. So yes, I would think we're now in sort of coming towards the middle of August. So over the last couple of weeks of August, you'll start seeing more in the way of communications around what's coming and the start of school. It'll be coming from the district, but you'll also start to see more coming out of individual schools as well as we get a little bit closer. And I know my team is excited to try a few communications and videos and things that speak directly to our students and try to get them excited about the new school year.
All right, thank you, Ms. Mohammed, for the question. Ms. Warren for the answer. Ms. Thomas, I want to come to you first with this question, and then Ms. Mohammed, I'd like to follow up with you as well. For you, Ms. Thomas, what's going to make you feel comfortable? What thoughts do you have about your children returning? What are some of the things that you feel like you need to see?
You can see basically more teacher parent involvement. I need to see more. I need to see more educational stuff that's strenuous.
I think we've lost Ms. Thomas. I'm gonna go quickly to Tyrone and then Ms. Mohammed. I'll have you answer that question as well.
You found me?
Yes, we have you now. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Miss. Go ahead. Go ahead to those guys. Go ahead.
Okay, Tyrone.
All right, I'm unmuted now. Okay, yeah. So, Miss Moore, you talked about like our parents. I love parent involvement, but folks are asking also with the school. You mentioned that kids will be marked as if like regular when they're not there. What's being in place for homeless students? Baltimore City have a lot of homeless students. So what is being put in place, for those homeless students who don't have a stable place to they can get on and all that. That's the first question, and then I'll go to the next one.
That's great. I'm really glad you asked me about that. Yes, we have a fairly significant population of homeless students, and the truth is that we're anticipating that there may be more families and students who become homeless, sadly, because of the current situation and the financial crisis, just instability in finances and housing that's been caused by this recent situation. So we're very concerned. The first thing that everyone could do to be helpful would be to make sure that if there is a family, especially if they're newly homeless and they have never received services before, that we make sure that we find out who those families are. So we're always trying to look for them, training school staff to be looking for students or families who may be experiencing homelessness. But if other members of the community can encourage families or students who are homeless to come forward and let someone know, either at the school or at the district level, we want to be sure that every student or every family who is experiencing homelessness gets all of the supports that they need and deserve. It can be, we as a district provide things like, uniforms and transportation and connection to some food benefits and whatnot. But sometimes it's also a matter of us connecting people with the right resources in the community. Because there are a number of great organizations that we work with who do provide a lot of added supports. So it's really about making sure that we know that we're able to document, and then we connect people to the right resources. But this is definitely something that we are thinking a lot about, we're concerned about, we're talking to our partners in the homeless community, and we need everyone's help really in making sure that we're connecting with everyone that needs that support. The homeless liaison office sits within my team, within the larger home and hospital office. And there's a wonderful young gentleman named Mr. Blackwell, Alan Blackwell, who really coordinates those supports. And he will absolutely go the extra mile when he finds someone who needs the support. And so I'm sorry I don't have the number right in front of me at the moment, but hopefully if I give it to TDP, maybe you can connect, share that information with your members later. But people should always feel free to reach out to Mr. Blackwell and his team. And they will always do whatever they can to provide that support. And when folks are enrolling in a school or getting ready for school, you can also inform the person that you're connected with at the school, and they should also be able to sign you up and connect you to the proper services.
Okay. And then you mentioned about, this being like a regular school day, now going back. And so I have a few questions around this. And let's see, how do I want to Okay, because it's a couple of different ones that we're getting in. One is about the latitude that schools will have to adopt a schedule for the student body. Some kids will struggle with being online that long, and added to that that long in a synchronous way, and then also those who don't have good internet, can be easily cut off or chopped out, or whatever. It's one parent here who also says that they did receive a hotspot, and trying to use the hotspot, it did not allow them to do some of the summer work that they had. It kept putting them offline.
Okay. Oops. So thank you. I think those are also really important points. I am not a technology expert, believe me, and I won't pretend to be. But I do. It's helpful to hear those kinds of stories, and to know that there's still work to be done. So when a family is struggling to use something like a hotspot, we certainly want to know about that so that we can try to help sort out those types of issues. What was the previous question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was about, well, one was about schools having the latitude to adapt a schedule that would
Right.
pretty much work. So yeah, if you could speak to that, and then just also how would things work for for those who just cannot sit. I mean, it's going to be hard. First of all, I'm an adult, like I'm grown, and I can't sit at a doggone computer for just hours and just sit here. So, thinking about kids and stuff like that, like how is that, going to work, or what's
Yeah, such a good question. So so the schedules that have been created are they're broken out by different grade levels. So pre-K, kindergarten, grades 1 to 5, 6 to 8, and then 9 to 12. They are fairly significant guidance, but there is some latitude within that for schools, particularly to work around the beginning and the end of the day and how they're going to schedule the start and end of the day. And there's a little bit of latitude within the schedule as well. The day is always structured in a way that tries to mix some live learning as well as asynchronous learning. So, things that students do on their own. But even when there's live learning going on, the content folks have built in what we call brain breaks or body breaks. So, chances to kind of get up and move around, take a rest, stop looking at the screen. So that is the goal. And then there will be some situations, some families or students that for various reasons related to work or childcare or whatever, may struggle to get onto a session, right, when it's actually happening. And so what is being worked on now is an effort to to work out the various technicalities and legalities that have to be dealt with in order to be able to record some sessions, so that if a family needs to come back to it later with their student, that would be a possibility. And from the attendance point of view, we're working on figuring out how we would document that participation in a learning session later on in the day, if that's what happened. So our goal is to really push and make sure that students really are there and access all of the learning and the content, while trying to build in some flexibility as well. And the length of time behind the sessions was also tied to some research that the team was working on that looked at the research around screen time and what was doable. So trying to kind of balance having a good, meaty and significant school day with giving kids plenty of breaks and time away from the screen.
Okay. It would have been, I don't know if this was done like in the groups that they were had, what were they called, the work streams, like if this would came up, but I can tell you from a parent's perspective, like this would have been think just the scheduling, this would have been helpful for the district to include parents in that, because we have to also be thought about in, this time frame with how we will space out stuff too. So I just want to throw that out there. I don't know if there's a way now that the district can, try to pull some parents together and talk about this scheduling and planning this out, before then, but that would have definitely been helpful. Thank you, William, and thank y'all parents for sharing.
Sure. Ms. Thomas, I want to give you an opportunity to finish your thought on what the district could do to better support you and the family.
Because of the COVID and everything that's going on, I think it's important if the kids have some type of, to help me, social and emotional health learning. Are they going to put more? Are they implement more of it? Because I know they have some, but some seems like it's not working as well. So if they can implement with some of the children, because the children are been locked in the house, they haven't been able to go to the playgrounds, they haven't been able to interact with their peers. So now we're going back to this is a whole nother different summer. So now they're going back to school again. And so the social anxiety, the anxieties, mentally, everything is there present. And now we're giving them a whole nother level of new structure from Baltimore City to sit down for 2 or 3 hours to learn. And at some point, we have to ask, what are we doing to our kids socially, mentally, and emotionally? So that's my question to the district. If you can show me where these kids are really going to get some help, where they're really going to get some type of plan from Baltimore City, not just say we're going to do it, but some of these kids are coming back very emotionally stressed out, very worn out mentally and physically, because they haven't been able to do the things that they're used to. This is new for them too. And if it's hard for adults, can you imagine how hard it is for the kids? So that's my question. What is the district going to do to help these kids, not just say it on paper, but socially, mentally, and physically help these kids? Because they have a lot of disparities. They have hunger, they have housing, they have all kinds of, emotional issues around their parenting. And so I need to know, what is the district doing without saying, oh, it's on paper, to help these kids in their situation?
Yes, Ms. Moore, you just muted yourself.
Sorry. No, I mean, I'm just so grateful to you that you just keep lifting up this really critical issue of our students' social and emotional well-being, because it's, it's what I live and breathe every day, and it's really, to me, fundamental, because it's not like a nice to have or an extra thing. It is foundational to our young people's ability to thrive and just to learn. I mean, you can't do math or learn to read and write if you're distracted by the many things that are stressing you out. You can't, pick up concepts and, and really grow in the way that we're asking children to do academically if we're not also and foundationally really helping young people develop their own coping skills, their own stress management skills, the ability to know, identify what we're feeling and talk about it. All of those things are part of what we mean when we talk about social and emotional learning. So we have actually, I think we as a district have learned a lot about this in the last couple of years and what works. But we have the buy-in and the support of our leadership. I think we have recognition at the school level that these things are really critical for our students. And so we're not just kind of throwing it out there as this extra thing to do on the side if you like it, but we're actually setting the expectation, and we put it into the schedules that every day at the start of the day, there's time set aside for students to do social emotional learning activities and have a chance to check in about how they're doing. And then we're asking teachers to build it into the structure of their lessons throughout the day. And then in addition, for those students who may need some added support, making sure that folks know where to go and get that added assistance outside of the regular classroom. So It's absolutely our real goal and intention. And if we're not getting it right, then I would invite you to personally contact me because I want to know about it and I want to get it better. We really have to be there for our kids. I really believe that with all my heart.
Thank you, Ms. Mohammed. We're getting close to the end of the show. I'd like to give you the opportunity to answer the same question. Your thoughts about what the district needs to provide for you and your children to feel safe.
I think, I think social emotional learning is important. However, I think parents have to take some responsibility to ensure that their children, are in a safe place mentally, emotionally, physically, whatever that means. For me, what's important, what I need the district to do, I need the district to be more transparent. These work groups without parents is unacceptable. Like, where you're getting these parents from, I don't know. I know many parents who are super engaged with the district and who are not involved in any of those work streams. I have a problem with that. So transparency, being consistent, being flexible. I mean, we have to be flexible in times like this. We can't be extremely rigid, not only with our parents, but with our staff and especially with our students. And so I think those things for me are what's most important. I think we lack the district for me over the past few weeks, attending and participating in those community conversations that they're having. I don't think that they are being truthful. I don't think that they are being, honest. And I think that they do a lot of circling. And so I really just want them to be honest. If you don't know, just say you don't know. I will respect that more than to not get a straightforward answer about what's going on or what my expectations should be or how I should address certain things or what you all are working on or what you're lacking. And bring me on board as a parent and say, when I say me, I mean just parents in general, like, what can I do to help our district and our students be successful? I know that you all cannot do it alone. So what can we do? Stop, cut out the BS for me. That's what I need. Just cut out the BS. Be honest, be transparent, be upfront, be flexible, and be consistent. And I think all the other things will work themselves out if we're actually being honest and willing to partner and do the work. I mean, you all are the professionals. I'm a parent. I'm a professional in a different way. And so I respect what you all are doing. But like I said, I'm a parent. I know what my children are capable of. I know what they're not capable of. And I just want, people to understand, to listen, and be willing to work together so that they can be successful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Mohammed. Ms. Warren, final thoughts?
Yeah, no, I just was so grateful for those points because I think, I don't know, we're experts of some kind, but parents are experts in their own children. And we will never know your children in the way you know your children. And the only way that we can, successfully support kids and support learning and support children's social emotional well-being is if we do it together in partnership. And so I don't think that there was an attempt to be misleading or not transparent in any way, but I'm so glad you said it because I will take it back to my colleagues. And I think it's so important that that folks know that that's how it's coming across and how it's feeling to people, which is really, kind of pains me to hear it, but it's good feedback. And, I think we need to take that on board and address it. And we need to make sure that people feel like this is an open and transparent process, which I know is the intention. But if that's not how it's feeling, then our intention is sort of falling short. So I thank you for being open.
Tyrone, final thoughts on a question?
Yeah, just thank you, Ms. Warren, for being here and then acknowledging that. But I do also want to piggyback and raise my hand with what Ms. Mohammed said. Because I am one of those parents who's connected to the district. I used to be a PCAT member, for crying out loud, and I've not been contacted not one time about anything. Like I said, the work streams, and if we were a part of that, again, I'm just mentioning about scheduling and everything, to actually have a space for parents to be a part of that. Like those things could be thought out. thinking about this process right now and us going into, we know it's big for the district to get kids back in school and they want to step into this, this hybrid model and stuff like that. But the facts are that we're stepping into virtual learning and it needs to be the best way possible that it can be for our kids. So all hands should be on deck, right? Like all hands outside of parents, they're community members and people who don't have kids that have availability and that want to help out. But they don't know how to connect. The district website it was done over, but it's still horrible to navigate through. You know what I'm saying? Like people do not know how to navigate through it. So like we have to be thinking about those things, as well as for me as a parent, I'm gonna be honest. I know what I know, and I can organize people and organize parents to get. I done forgot a lot of this stuff. So I need a device to be able to sit in class with my kids so that I'm able to help. You know what I mean? Like seriously, like new math and things that are going on. Like, and I think there's going to be a lot of parents who need to be updated and brought up to speed, because again, we have to be there, with them and do this work with them, while they're going. At least I know I'm that kind of parent. So I know my schedule is getting ready to be set up as my kids' school schedule. I have 2 daughters, one who's starting 9th grade. So this is a huge transition for her. So I have to be there, to support. So I'm going to also need to know everything that I can. And I've heard this from other parents. So, I don't know if that's going to come from the school level or the district level and, making this happen. But parents also need as many orientations and classes and, trainings as their kids could get.
Yeah. And I should say, thank you for sharing that. I know there are plans, underway, not only for the schools to be doing engaging sessions with families and orientation at that level, but also sessions at the district level. I believe there's going to be something about how just even understanding how to navigate the technology, and that, the different platforms that students will be using. And so there are plans around that. That is not my area of expertise. So I don't want to get too deep into it because I'll probably say the wrong thing, but I know that those plans are in the works. But in any event, your point is well taken, both of you. I appreciate you sharing, and we just need to keep pushing harder for genuine parent partnership with the district.
Well, that is our time for today. Ms. Sarah Warren from City Schools, thank you for joining us. Our esteemed parents, Ms. Twila Mohammed, Ms. Helen Thomas, thank you for coming on, giving us your time, and these honest questions that many, many families and many, many parents do have and are looking for the answers and solutions to those questions and problems. Join us Thursday, where I'm praying that we will not just see a TDP version of Tyrone's visage, because we need Tyrone's visage on screen. Join us Thursday for Tyrone's House at 5 o'clock, where we will continue the discussion led by him. I'll be off to the side, probably making some jokes, right, Tyrone? Okay, right. All right, thank you so much, family. Till next Monday. Actually, we'll see you at Tyrone's House, 5 o'clock, and then rejoin us again next Monday at 5 o'clock. To our guests, thank you very, very, very much for coming on and keeping this discussion going. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Y'all have a good evening.